There are two kinds of people in this world: those who treat life as if no one is watching, and those who move as if the eyes of the world are fixed on their every step. The difference between mediocrity and greatness is this: when you act as though the fate of mankind rests upon your shoulders, you begin to summon a power most men never touch in their entire lifetime. Do not mistake this for arrogance. This is responsibility. It is the secret flame that built the empires of Carnegie, the relentless persistence of Edison, the fire that refused to let Lincoln collapse under the weight of ridicule, failure, and loss. Every great figure who left a mark upon history carried themselves with the awareness that their mission was larger than themselves. And you, yes, you, are no different. The question is not whether the world is counting on you. The question is whether you will live as if it is. The average man whispers excuses to himself. It doesn't matter what I do. Who cares if I succeed or fail? I'm just one person. That is the most dangerous lie ever told. For history has proven again and again that one person, armed with unwavering belief, can alter the course of nations. When you rise each morning, do you rise as though your family's future depends on it? Do you move as though your actions today could echo into eternity? Or do you stumble into the day half asleep, waiting for someone else to carry the weight you were born to bear? The truth is ruthless. If you will not seize your destiny, someone else will dictate it. If you will not command your mind, the world will enslave it with distraction, comfort, and fear. You were not put here to coast through existence. You were placed here to create, to endure, to master, to give, because life itself is a trust placed in your hands. Napoleon Hill once said that desire backed by faith knows no such word as impossible. But desire without responsibility is nothing but fantasy. It is when you anchor your desire to duty, when you convince yourself that your dream is not optional but necessary, that the gates of resistance begin to crumble. Think of the builders of civilization. Ford did not invent the automobile, but he acted as though the world depended on him, making it accessible to every household. His vision was not for himself alone, but for the working man who would finally taste freedom. Think of Disney, who refused to surrender to bankruptcy, skepticism, and repeated rejection because he saw in his mind a kingdom where dreams could breathe. These men did not wait for permission. They did not wait for conditions to be perfect. They moved with the conviction that their work mattered, that their mission was sacred, that millions unseen were counting on them. That same fire is available to you now, if you dare to claim it. But understand, this responsibility is not a burden, it is liberation. To live as though the whole world is counting on you is to shed the illusion that you are powerless. It forces you to burn the bridges to your excuses. It demands that you eliminate the poison of someday. You begin to think differently, act differently, walk differently. Discipline no longer feels like punishment. It becomes the weapon that sharpens your edge. When you pick up your phone, when you enter a room, when you sit down to work, imagine 1,000 eyes watching. Imagine that what you say, what you do, what you build will ripple across continents. Because it will. Every word you utter shapes the soil of someone else's mind. Every act of courage plants seeds in the hearts of others. You do not live in isolation. The invisible threads of influence connect you to millions you will never meet. And so the responsibility is real. The question is, what will you do with it? Will you live small, hiding from the call of destiny? Or will you rise each morning and say, the world may not know my name yet, but it will feel the weight of my actions? Lincoln knew this when he stood before a nation on the brink of collapse. Gandhi knew this when he picked up a handful of salt and shook an empire. Mandela knew this when he walked out of prison after 27 years, not with bitterness, but with a vision for reconciliation. None of them were superhuman. They were ordinary men who chose to act as though history itself was counting on their next move. That is the standard. That is the call. And until you accept it, life will treat you as casually as you treat it. But the moment you decide, truly decide, that your life is not just for you, the entire universe conspires to test you, stretch you, and sharpen you into the person capable of carrying that weight. Obstacles appear not to destroy you, but to demand that you prove worthy of the mission you claim to serve. So, rise, straighten your spine. Look at this day as though it is the stage upon which destiny itself is watching. Because whether you recognize it or not, the world is counting on you. You cannot drift your way into greatness. A ship without a captain is claimed by the tides, tossed wherever the current pleases. But a ship with a captain who knows that lives depend on him. He does not surrender to the wind, he bends it to his will. He charts his course not because it is easy, but because failure would mean betrayal. That is how you must see your life. You are not a passenger. You are the captain, and the entire crew, your family, your dreams, your future generations, wait for you to steer with conviction. When the weight feels unbearable, remember this pressure is proof of purpose. Diamonds are not born in silence and softness. They are born in fire, under crushing weight. The responsibility you feel is not punishment. It is evidence that life has entrusted you with something greater than comfort. Discipline becomes a different animal when you understand this. Most people treat discipline like a chore, dragging themselves through the motions. But when you carry yourself as though the world is counting on you, discipline is transformed into devotion. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like it?" You declare, "It must be done." You eat not for pleasure, but for fuel. You train not for vanity, but for readiness. You work not for a paycheck, but for a mission that demands your best. And here is where belief collides with action. Napoleon Hill wrote that, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But belief without action is a hollow echo. Belief must be proven in sweat, in sacrifice and relentless pursuit. To act as though the world is counting on you is to marry belief with discipline, vision with execution, desire with daily labor. Think of Thomas Edison toiling through thousands of failed experiments. Imagine if he had said, "This is too hard. It doesn't matter anyway." You would not be reading these words by the light of a bulb today. Every night he lit his laboratory not just for himself, but for generations unborn who would live in the glow of his persistence. He acted as though the world was waiting, and so it was. Do not insult your own destiny by moving half-heartedly. Do not dishonor your gift by treating it casually. You were not born to live in shadows. You were born to burn like a torch in the darkness. Carry yourself as though people you will never meet are waiting for your courage to ripple into their lives. Because they are. Somewhere a child will grow up stronger because of the example you set. Somewhere a dreamer will keep going because they saw you refuse to quit. You may never know their names, but they will feel the impact of your choice to act with responsibility. This is how leaders are forged. Not by titles or applause, but by the unshakable decision to move with purpose, even when no one is watching. Leadership is not given, it is taken, and it is taken by those who understand that their life is not their own. A true leader wakes each morning with a sacred oath, to serve the mission, to honor the vision, to act as though failure would rob the world of something irreplaceable. You must begin to live like this. Start by mastering the smallest things, because if you cannot command yourself in silence, you will never command respect in the storm. Make your bed like the world depends on it. Write that page as though history waits for your words. Speak with integrity as if millions are listening. Do not let the small moments slip away, for greatness is built not in giant leaps, but in thousands of ordinary choices made with extraordinary responsibility. And let me warn you, the world will test this resolve. It will mock you, distract you, tempt you with comfort, seduce you with mediocrity. It will whisper in your ear, "Relax. No one is watching. It doesn't matter." But in those moments, you must remember, yes, it does matter, because you are shaping who you are becoming. You are training your spirit either to rise or to shrink. And every time you choose discipline over ease, you are chiseling away at the version of you who will one day carry the weight of your destiny without breaking. The world is not saved by those who take the easy path. The world is saved by those who walk straight into the storm with fire in their eyes and duty in their hearts. When the winds howl, when the waves crash, when fear claws at your throat, remember that every step forward is not just for you. It is for every soul who will be lifted by the courage you display. This is the mindset of immortals. This is how men like Washington and Churchill carried nations on their backs. They were not flawless. They were not invincible. They were men who refused to act small. They carried themselves as though history was watching, and indeed it was. And now history is watching you. There is a moment every man faces when the mirror stares back and asks, "Are you living as if it matters? Not tomorrow, not someday, now." And if the answer is no, then what excuse could possibly justify it? Life is not a rehearsal. This stage does not offer second acts for those who waste the first. Every tick of the clock is a summons to rise, to deliver, to fight as though time itself were an adversary waiting to strip you of your chance. The great tragedy of our age is not that men lack opportunity. It is that men squander it by living as though their lives are inconsequential. They drift in distraction, drown in comfort, suffocate in mediocrity. They forget that their very existence is a trust, a loan from eternity that must be repaid with courage, with vision, with the fire of contribution. Do you think it was easy for Lincoln to rise again and again after defeat? To lose election after election, to bury his children, to face ridicule that would have crushed weaker men? Yet he stood because he knew that his life was not his own. A nation's soul hung in the balance, and he acted as though millions yet unborn depended on his resolve, because they did. That is what responsibility looks like. That is what it means to act as though the whole world is counting on you. You must begin to see your vision the same way. Your dream is not a hobby. It is not a luxury. It is a lifeline, not only for you, but for the countless others whose futures will be shaped by your courage to pursue it. If you build it, they will be inspired. If you quit, they will be robbed. And every time you choose to rise instead of retreat, you write a silent contract with destiny. I will not abandon the mission. I will not betray the gift. I will carry this until it is done. There is no greatness without this weight. There is no immortality without this fire. Comfort is the coffin of destiny, and responsibility is the hammer that breaks it open. Look at Henry Ford, ridiculed for chasing a dream that seemed impossible. His own engineers told him it couldn't be done, yet he refused to listen, because he wasn't building for them. He was building for the millions of ordinary men who needed a machine that would change their lives. He acted as though the world depended on his stubbornness, and history rewarded him for it. Ask yourself what world will be robbed if you choose to shrink. Whose fire will go out if you hide your flame? What child will settle for less because you never showed them what more looked like? Responsibility is not a prison. It is a path. It frees you from the chains of selfishness. It demands you rise beyond your petty fears. It calls you into the arena where destiny is decided. Do not run from this. Embrace it. Let the weight sit heavy on your shoulders until your spine grows strong enough to carry it. Let the silence of the night remind you that there are eyes unseen waiting for your light. Let the struggle teach you that pain is not punishment but preparation. Because the more you accept, the greater you become. And understand this, the world does not need more spectators. It does not need more critics, more consumers, more men hiding in the shadows. It needs builders. It needs warriors. It needs visionaries who will plant trees under whose shade they may never sit. It needs you to live as though your very breath is a gift you refuse to waste. Napoleon Hill called it definiteness of purpose. Without it, you wander. With it, you blaze. And when you add responsibility to purpose, you ignite something unstoppable. You become a force of nature. You wake with urgency because delay feels like betrayal. You act with precision because carelessness feels like theft. You persist with fury because surrender feels like treason. This is how revolutions are born, not in the minds of the comfortable, but in the hearts of those who accept responsibility so fully that quitting is no longer an option. Every invention, every breakthrough, every movement that reshaped humanity was birthed by men and women who believed. If not me, then who? If not now, then when? And you, what are you waiting for? The call has already been issued. The stage has already been set. History waits with its pen in hand, ready to etch your name among those who carried the burden and refused to let it crush them. Do not waste this. Do not insult the breath in your lungs by pretending it does not matter. Live as though every step you take carries the weight of eternity. Act as though every decision you make sets the course of generations, because it does. The world does not reward hesitation. It rewards the man who dares to move forward even when the ground beneath his feet shakes. Responsibility sharpens the will. It strips away the option of retreat. When you tell yourself, I cannot quit for the world depends on me, you lock the door on escape. You weld it shut. You burn the bridges behind you until the only path left is through. This is how warriors are made, not in the comfort of certainty, but in the crucible of necessity. When Cortez landed with his men and ordered the ships to be burned, he wasn't being reckless. He was saying, there is no going back. Victory is not optional. It is survival. And with their backs against the sea, his men fought with a ferocity they never would have known otherwise. That is the spirit you must carry into your own mission. Burn the ships. Banish the thought of quitting. Tell yourself, I will deliver because I must deliver. Look around you. Everywhere men are waiting for permission to act, paralyzed by fear of failure. But failure is not the true enemy. Indifference is, hesitation is. The slow death of never trying at all. That is the tragedy. Do you think Edison feared failure after 1,000 experiments went wrong? No. He had welded himself to responsibility. He told himself that light must be brought to the world, and so every failure became just one step closer to that inevitable victory. When you live like this, fear changes shape. It no longer paralyzes you. It propels you. You stop asking, what if I fail? And begin demanding, what if I refuse? And the world is left in darkness because of me. That is a question no man of responsibility can bear to answer. And so he acts. Discipline becomes sacred under this mindset. The man who believes only his comfort is at stake will give up when the pain grows sharp. But the man who believes the world is counting on him will push until his body trembles, his mind screams, and his soul takes command. That is when the transformation occurs. That is when the small self dies and the great self is born. Napoleon Hill taught that burning desire must be backed by faith and relentless action. But understand this burning desire is not a feeling. It is a vow, a contract you sign with destiny in blood, declaring I will not rest until this vision is real. Feelings fade, vows endure. If you treat your dream as though it is merely for you, it will dissolve in moments of weakness. But if you treat it as though the world is depending on it, you will carry it through the fire. Think of Gandhi, small in stature yet massive in spirit. He had no weapons, no armies, no riches. And yet he carried the weight of millions upon his shoulders. He acted as though the freedom of an entire people rested in his choices, because it did. That sense of responsibility gave him a power that toppled empires without lifting a sword. Or consider Nelson Mandela, confined to a cell for nearly 3 decades. He could have surrendered to bitterness. He could have justified a life of silence. But he knew that his suffering was not his alone. The hopes of a nation were chained with him, and so he endured, holding the vision until the walls crumbled, until he emerged as the man who would reconcile a divided land. That is responsibility. That is power. The same seed lies in you. Perhaps your stage is not a battlefield or a prison cell. Perhaps it is a boardroom, a classroom, a workshop, a desk in a quiet room. But do not mistake smaller stages for smaller responsibilities. Every action ripples. Every choice multiplies. Somewhere, someone's life will bend toward light or darkness, depending on what you do today. And if you feel the weight pressing heavy on your chest, good. That means you are awake. That means you understand. The man who feels no weight is a man who has surrendered. The man who feels the crushing burden is the one who has accepted the sacred truth. That life is asking something of him. That destiny has entrusted him with a mission. So rise to it. Stand taller beneath it. Do not beg for the weight to be lighter. Beg for your back to grow stronger. Do not wish the path to be easier. Demand that your spirit become harder. Because responsibility is not here to crush you. It is here to carve you into the kind of man who cannot be broken. There comes a time when you must stop asking, why me, and start declaring, because of me. Because of me, this family will rise. Because of me, this dream will live. Because of me, this chain of weakness will break. That is the transformation responsibility demands. Not questioning why the weight is yours, but embracing it as proof that you were chosen to carry it. Every man in history who achieved greatness bore this exact turning point. Andrew Carnegie did not simply desire wealth for himself. He carried the burden of proving that an immigrant boy with nothing could build an empire and then give it away to shape libraries, universities, and opportunity for millions. His fortune was not his end goal. It was a tool, a responsibility, a mission. Walt Disney was laughed at, rejected by bankers, called foolish for dreaming of a world built on imagination. But he persisted because he believed children and families around the world needed a kingdom of wonder, a place where dreams could breathe. He acted as if the happiness of millions rested on his stubborn refusal to quit. And today, decades later, his vision continues to ignite joy across continents. Responsibility stretches beyond the grave. That is the power of living as though the world is counting on you. What you build, endure, and create today echoes into centuries you will never see. You are not merely fighting for yourself. You are writing chapters for generations unborn. But let us be clear, this path is not gentle. Responsibility is a ruthless teacher. It will wake you at dawn when you crave rest. It will demand focus when your mind longs to wander. It will strip you of excuses, cut away your softness, and forge you in fire. And in the process, you will discover what few men ever do, that the human spirit, once committed, is limitless. You will stumble, you will fail, you will doubt yourself, but you will not quit, because you know quitting is betrayal. Betrayal not just of yourself, but of the countless others waiting for your example. Do you see how this changes everything? When you are tempted to stop, you remember, if I give up, I am not the only one who suffers. The world loses what I was meant to bring, and suddenly stopping is no longer an option. This is the discipline of giants. They did not move because they always felt strong. They moved because weakness would cost too much. They knew the eyes of the world, whether seen or unseen, were watching, and so they stood tall even when their knees shook. Responsibility is not about perfection. It is about devotion. The man who falls 7 times and rises 8 does not rise for applause. He rises because others are leaning on him. That weight makes him relentless. That duty makes him unstoppable. And here is the paradox: the more you accept responsibility, the freer you become. Freedom does not come from escape. It comes from ownership. The man who blames others, who avoids his duty, who hides from responsibility, he is the slave. He is bound by fear, chained by excuses, imprisoned by weakness. But the man who says, the weight is mine, the duty is mine, the mission is mine, that man becomes untouchable. He can be knocked down, but he cannot be kept down. He can be delayed, but not denied. Napoleon Hill taught that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. But that benefit is unlocked only by the man who takes responsibility in the storm. Most men collapse and curse the wind. The rare man adjusts his sails, grips the wheel, and declares, "The storm will not have me, I was born for this." That man becomes unshakable. Understand this truth: your responsibility is not a curse, it is your crown. Wear it, carry it. Let it remind you that you were never meant to live small. You were meant to rise, to lead, to endure, to create. And the world, whether it realizes it or not, is waiting for you to do exactly that. So when doubt comes knocking, when fatigue weighs heavy, when the voice inside whispers, no one will notice. If you quit, you must roar back, they will notice. History will notice. Eternity will notice. Because I was given this mission and I will not betray it. This is how legacies are built. Not in words alone, but in the silent, stubborn refusal to break when everything says you should. Not in comfort, but in fire. Not in ease, but in the relentless weight of responsibility embraced as destiny. And so I ask you now, will you live like the world is counting on you? Will you stand in the arena scared and bloody, yet unbroken, because you understood that your life was never yours alone? Will you burn like a torch so that others may find their way? Because the world is counting on you, and history is waiting to see your answer. You are alive in this moment for a reason, not by accident, not by coincidence, but by design. The same force that set the stars into motion placed within you a spark, a duty, a call to rise. And if you ignore it, the world loses something it cannot replace: you. Every invention, every movement, every revolution was born through someone who refused to believe their life was small. They acted as though everything depended on their courage, and so the impossible became inevitable. This is the pattern of greatness. It begins with one person who refuses to shrink, one voice that refuses to be silent, one soul who declares, "The world may not see it yet, but it will feel it through me." Do not wait for the perfect time. There will never be one. Do not wait for permission. No one is coming to hand it to you. You are the permission. You are the answer. You are the key that unlocks the doors only you can open. And when the road feels unbearable, when you are tempted to lay down the weight, remember this: the heaviest burdens produce the strongest backs. The fiercest fires forge the sharpest steel. The most relentless storms raise the most unshakable leaders. Do not ask for relief. Ask for resilience. Do not pray for escape. Pray for endurance. Because the responsibility is not there to destroy you. It is there to build you into the kind of person who can carry destiny on his shoulders without faltering. Napoleon Hill spoke of the master key, the ability to harness your thoughts, your desires, your faith into definite action. That key is useless if you treat your mission as optional. It only unlocks its power when you tell yourself, "This is not for me alone." This is my responsibility to the world. That declaration transforms your life from ordinary to extraordinary. Think of the countless nameless men and women who lived before you, who sacrificed, who endured, who carried their own responsibilities so that you might stand where you are today. Do you not owe them your best? Do you not owe the generations yet to come the example of a life fully lived? Every breath is borrowed, every day is rented, and the payment is not money, it is contribution. It is devotion. It is giving back more than you take. If your knees tremble, let them tremble while you step forward anyway. If your voice shakes, let it shake as you speak anyway. If your hands shake, let them shake while you build anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear dictate your duty. And when your time comes, and it will come, when your final breath approaches, you will not measure your life in comfort, in possessions, or in accolades. You will measure it in responsibility. Did you carry what was given to you? Did you rise when the world asked? Did you act as though your life mattered to more than just yourself? The man who can say yes to those questions is the man who dies free. The man who cannot will carry regret heavier than any weight he bore in life. So live now as though that day is already upon you. Live so that when the end comes, you can smile through weary lungs and whisper, "I carried it. I gave it all. I did not waste what was entrusted to me." That is victory. That is greatness. Do not underestimate the ripple of your actions. A single spark can ignite a forest. A single act of courage can inspire millions. A single life lived with responsibility can alter the course of history. And if you doubt this, remember every giant was once unseen. Every movement was once a whisper. Every world changer was once a man or woman who simply said, "I will not abandon my duty." Now it is your turn. Rise as though the entire world waits for your strength. Speak as though generations lean on your words. Work as though eternity measures your effort. Love as though the healing of hearts depends on it. Live as though the whole world is counting on you, because it is. This is the call of destiny. This is the torch of responsibility, and it belongs in your hands. Carry it. Protect it. Burn with it until the darkness bends, until the world is illuminated by the fire of your devotion. And when history writes its pages, when eternity casts its gaze, let it say of you, "Here was a man, here was a woman, who lived as though the whole world was counting on them." And because of that, the world was changed forever.